And what can you
Yeah,
tell?
so this happened, I believe, fourth round. I felt a jab, and I actually felt my eyebrow split open. This one pretty much around the same time,
Hmm.
and I think the knee mixed with the uppercut in the fourth round, the one that put me down, uh, did some damage to my nose. So I had my septum replaced because it was crooked, like very crooked, like a letter C, and I couldn't breathe. So yeah, Alex's punches were definitely hard. The hardest I've ever been hit out of all the guys I've ever fought.
Bem-vindos ao canal Clips MMA. Em entrevista para o canal MMA Junkie, Khalil Rountree explicou todas as lesões que teve na luta contra o Poatan e assumiu que os socos do Alex foram os mais fortes que ele já tomou. Vamos conferir, já se inscreva aí no canal e bora!
You had a 2-1 rounds advantage according to the judges' scorecards. So yeah, again on that front as well, it's not like you were just hanging in there. You were winning the fight going into the championship rounds. My question would be, I guess at that point, did the altitude, which I know you got there early, but did it affect you? Was it maybe inexperience of this being your first title fight versus Pereira's been in a few of these? What would you attribute maybe things started to go wrong in round four?
I can't really say that it was the altitude because we spent so much time in Park City ahead of the fight, and even doing altitude training here in Las Vegas, up at Mount Charleston, and we even went to California, even weeks before then to go and run some mountains out there. So as far as the cardio goes, I don't think that I could have been any more prepared. Uh, I did everything I could. I mean, even the week before the fight, I did like a 6 mile run at 7,000 feet elevation in Park City, and I was okay. So I can't really say that it was the altitude that affected me. I think what it really was is every round it seemed that Alex was able to make adjustments and adapt. And I think by round three, when the pressure came on and he started to add more pressure and mix up the strikes a little bit more, punches and kicks. Once they started landing, I think that my body responded the way that it did. And anyone who knows, like when you absorb punches, especially to the head, if it's heavy, it's pretty energy. It takes your energy. So I'd say it's more that than anything.
Khalil, when I was watching that fight, obviously there's a major title on the line, but there was one in the back of my head. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, boy, this fight almost defines what Dana White talks about when he says a BMF title. Because to
Mhm.
me, man, I can't think of two guys just putting it all out on the line that night in that fight, being part of it, and then possibly getting a chance to see some of the highlights and stuff like that. What do you think? Like the representation of yourself, the representation of Pereira, do you think that kind of almost defines the definition of a BMF, like the way you guys fought out there?
Yeah, I think that the both of us should definitely be considered BMFs. Yeah, I think the both of us being the size that we are and the punching power that we possess, and even our highlights that we have in our careers, they're pretty badass in my opinion. So, yeah, it's something similar. I think that uh, yeah, if there were like a BMF division, and like kind of the heavier guys, that would definitely be one of the fights. I think that would be in the run for that title.
Three last quick ones. Did you have fun out there? Despite the result and the injury, were you having fun in your title fight?
This was the most fun I've ever had in a fight in my life. I was actually in the middle. Like I remember during the rounds, during the exchanges, this guy's throwing at me and everything, and I just remember I was like having conversations with myself. I was just like it was just like conversations of happiness, and I'm just like actually like literally like thanking God. I'm like, wow, thanks God for this moment. Like this is so cool. Like literally, like these were the internal conversations happening at moments during the fight. Yeah, every moment of it, the Salt Lake City crowd, the UFC staff, uh, the whole experience itself was really really memorable. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this moment in time.
What I loved is when the fight first started, you came out with a two-piece right away, man. I was like, okay, there's no deer in the headlights here. This guy came to win, and your striking is so refined, your punches are so straight and clean. So I loved it. I love hearing that you were having fun out there, because at the end of the day, I know it's a stressful thing to be a fighter. It's not for everyone. Some people throw up in the back before they even go out. Some people have to use the restroom, and then some people have performance anxiety. But it looked like you were pretty much on point. Um, then the injuries, when it's around the eyes and the nose, we don't want to assume. So now that you've had your surgeries, what exactly did you have? You had the laceration, but any broken bones around the eye, and what can you
Yeah,
tell?
so this happened, I believe, fourth round. I felt a jab, and I actually felt my eyebrow split open. This one pretty much around the same time,
Mhm.
and I think the knee mixed with the uppercut in the fourth round, the one that put me down, uh, did some damage to my nose. So I had my septum replaced because it was crooked, like very crooked, like a letter C, and I couldn't breathe. So the doctor went back in there and straightened it up. I still have these like plastic like stents in my nose right now to keep the airway open, but I just got all the gauze taken out today. Uh so yeah, like broken nose, cut over the eye, cut under the eye, and then the cut that was on the bridge of my nose, that happened 3 weeks before the event. I was sparring and I got hit in the nose like it like skin, but it split my nose open pretty good. So no other injuries. I mean, everything else feels good. My hands, my legs. Uh, yeah, people mentioned like maybe the calf kicks were damaging me. I've dealt with calf kicks before, and my leg is totally fine. There's no swelling. There's no bruising on my calf. Everything was just like the cuts in the nose. The nose was the worst thing.
I think it was interesting. Mark Goddard pulled Joe Rogan aside and said, in 20 years of being a ref, I've never heard punches being thrown so hard as Pereira was throwing them. Was he kind of the guy that hit you the hardest in all the fights that you've had? What did you think of, I guess, Goddard's comment? Is Pereira really that special in terms of like the power that he has? Or
One thing I will say is it's because Goddard has never refed one of my fights ever. That was his first time being the ref in a cage with me. So yeah, and Alex at the same time. So yeah, Alex's punches were definitely hard. The hardest I've ever been hit out of all the guys I've ever fought. Uh yeah, but I think if Goddard would have refed some of my fights in the past, I think that comment would have been made years ago.